Good evening from Toyota Park in Sydney for the clash of the round between the Olympic Sharks and the Brisbane Strikers. It's third versus fourth. These two teams level on points, and now after the weekend's result at Newcastle, 4 points out of that second spot. Well, there's plenty of interest not only from the fans here but Frank Farina and Eddie Krenchevic. So Andy Harper, plenty of interest all over the country about this one.
Well, as there should be, of course. The National League is what Australian soccer at the moment is all about. And in the context of this current campaign, this is a game of huge significance. Both teams playing the best football in the competition, I feel. Certainly the easiest to watch. And vying for that second spot to put pressure on Newcastle. They've both got a game in hand on Newcastle. It shouldn't be forgotten.
Round 9, the Brisbane Strikers won it 1-0 but there was a little bit of spice in a few tackles. This one from Nicky Carl deserved a red card.
It certainly fired things up. Nicky Carl, of course, is away in France playing with Troyes, and there'll be no particular retribution from Brisbane towards that individual tonight, but perhaps things have simmered since, maybe not as a result of that tackle, but as a result of the ding-dong battle between the two for that second place. A little bit of luck on this occasion for the Olympic Sharks. That's what football can do. But the goal that decided the game was a fairly innocuous sort of effort. Did get them the 3 points though, and the way the season has unfolded, it has really set tonight up as a huge game. Both teams playing well, but the significance given the competition table. Wonderful night of football coming up.
A narrow victory last week against the Wollongong Wolves. They've had 17 players to score goals so far this season, so they can bang them in from anywhere.
And I think that's a good thing. The bottom line is you don't care where your goals are coming from, so long as they go in. The next level of that, well, I think it's good to spread the goal-scoring burden. It means that the opposition, when they prepare to play, you can't focus their attention on 1 or 2 players. They need to be alert across the board, and it does free up players. If one's having a bad game, then another couple of the teammates can pop up and score the goals to win your team the points. Olympic doing really well. Difficult road trip, Wollongong, it must be said, given Wollongong's season, though. But they lifted themselves, obviously, for the visit of the Sharks last week.
Now, if Fernando Rec or Foster score a goal, then the Brisbane Strikers at least get a point, if not 3. If they don't score, they don't win. That is a fact. Now, is there anybody in this lineup that could stop those 2 players this evening? Well,
the way the whole team plays is what will be the biggest problem for Brisbane. Not any 1 or 2 individuals who will look to take Rec or Foster out of the game, but I think, as I've said on the coverage before, the best defensive effort for the Olympic Sharks is the way they keep the ball and the pressure they put their opponents under in an attacking sense. It means that Brisbane tonight won't have a chance to rest one little bit, and when they do get the ball, sometimes the batteries run dry and they can't put the pressure on Olympic that they'd like. That's the defensive key for the Olympic Sharks tonight.
They've got a great attacking lineup, as you can well imagine, the Brisbane Strikers, and they scored 3 last weekend. Well, Fernando Rec and company. Rec didn't score, but Foster did.
And one of the Adelaide defenders as well. They got a help from the opposition. Look, it was a good score on the scoreboard. These highlights don't show the quality of the Brisbane play. The goals themselves were fairly ramshackle affairs. A well-taken penalty here from Paul Foster to make it 2-0. This is good build-up play, typical of Brisbane. Grierson over the top. It was Richie Alagich making the incursion into the box, and then it was just all... It was like comedy capers there from Adelaide City. Gee, haven't they fallen on hard times? Really, the team of the 80s and 90s, they're a shadow of their former selves at the moment.
McLaren comes back in, as does Trajanovski. But the interesting thing is, as we look at their team lineup, 7 players have played in every game so far this season.
Look, it's a key to a successful tilted competition, Paul. Stability in your lineup. Newcastle have enjoyed it. You could virtually write in Crook's team sheet for him week after week. Brisbane's had a similar experience. Peter Grierson, the number 6, for mine, one of the most clever midfielders going around. Of course, Rec and Foster, we've talked about. Chris Trajanovski brings experience. The number 4, John McCain there. I think Brisbane's defence, if anything, is the one aspect of their game which has been maligned by the commentators, such as us and other analysts. But John McCain, a young Socceroo, who's got a big future in the NSL, a very solid and good and capable defender, but a lot resting on his young shoulders.
Well, the Brisbane Strikers have never beaten the Olympic Sharks here in New South Wales. In fact, the last time they got anything out of the Sharks was back in the 94-95 season. What a great day to get all 3 points. Mike Cockles, your match commentator.
Well, a real Queensland flavour to the top of the table clash here at Toyota Park. The Brisbane Strikers up against 5 of their former teammates in this Olympic Sharks side. A top 2 spot up for grabs here on a blustery evening in Sydney. Brisbane going into the game in good form. John Kosmina very, very confident about getting all 3 points here, despite the historical problems that Brisbane have had away from home against the Olympic Sharks. Chris Trajanovski restored to the Brisbane starting lineup in one of 2 changes made by Kosmina for the game. Also the Brisbane skipper Stewie McLaren returning from suspension. No place in the Sharks lineup tonight for Ante Juric. Their record bye still out through injury, but some good news in that Lindsay Wilson returns to the side after spending a couple of weeks on the sidelines. Also a spot for the Japanese import Hiroyuki Ishida, who impressed so much against the Wollongong Wolves last weekend. The rain, well, it's just started to tumble down a minute or so before the kickoff here. A rather disappointing crowd in. Perhaps the weather has had something to do with it, although there is a rather large Greek festival on in Sydney at the moment. The man in the middle this evening, Simon Micallef. It's the two teams regarded by many as the best entertaining sides in the competition going head-to-head. It's going to be the Sharks to get the game underway. Dylan Macallister retains his place in the lineup in the absence of Ante Juric. And as we've already discussed, the Socceroo coach Frank Farina among the fans here at Toyota Park, perhaps to cast an eye over the Brisbane Strikers attacking midfielder Fernando Rec. A few stories during the week that he may gain Australian citizenship and become available for the Socceroos. Carboni on the ball for the Strikers. Just a word on that. Paul Wade, the former Socceroo captain. Would you like to see Fernando Rec wearing the green and gold?
Oh, look, just as a player in the National League, yes, but at what level? Whose place is he going to take? Will he take Paul Ocon's? I'm not quite sure. You're up against some quality there is no doubt about it. I'm undecided at the moment.
Well, the first shot of the game comes from Richie Alagic. He's playing on the right-hand side of this Strikers midfield. Adam Webber at right back for the Strikers. Both Matthew Mackay and Lawrence Drake have been dropped to the bench. Clint Bolton, one of 5 former Brisbane Strikers players on the Sharks team sheet tonight. I've been calling it Brisbane A versus Brisbane B in the build-up to this game, and Andy Harper just talking to Clint Bolton about that subject. He said, well, which one's Brisbane A?
That's not a bad point. Of course, he's not an ex-Brisbane player, but you can throw Troy Halpin into that as well, which means a player who's played under John Cosmina. Cosy therefore has a very close understanding, or should have a very close understanding of all the or a large chunk of the Olympic players. Just another factor of interest for the game. Of course, that Brisbane A versus Brisbane B, the competition table, the rivalry between the coaches, that's not something that's got a lot of publicity, but they're very keen rivals, Gary Phillips and John Cosmina. There's a lot in today's game. Very spicy affair.
Durante playing the ball down the line. Carboni will get there in time. And the ball has come off Lindsay Wilson, so it will be a throw to the Strikers deep in their own half of the field. And speaking of the field, Andy Harper, still a problem in the middle of the pitch here at Toyota Park.
I'm going to blame the Cheergirls for that. The Sharkettes, that's where they do their pre-match routine, and those big heavy boots haven't done the grass any good at all.
Here's Ishida on the ball for the Sharks, lays it off to North. North gets away from Alagic. Still going is Jade North, and that could be a corner, although Alagic has done very well to keep the ball in play. Hiroyuki Ishida played on both of Olympics goals last weekend against the Wollongong Wolves. A very quick player, has some fantastic close skills as well. A real crowd pleaser is Ishida. Juric has moved forward, and the ball just skimmed off the surface, caught him on the hand, so the free kick goes to Brisbane. A good incursion there from the sweeper. Ante Juric. You can see the surface here a little bit slippery after that rain just before the kick-off. It has eased at the moment, which is good news for the fans and of course our sideline man Andy Harper.
It's ever so nice of you to think of him, Michael.
Well, Paul Wade, these two teams, as you've already said, level on points at the moment. The Sharks have the better goal difference. Carboni gets the cross in. It's a deep one, and that will be an easy take for the goalkeeper. Yes, not a lot separating these two sides on the competition table. Which way is it going to go?
Well, I fancy the Sharks at home. I really do. I think Andy brought a very good point up in the pre-match where he said that if there's any weakness to this Brisbane Strikers lineup, it just might be in their defence. They have put McLaren, who comes back into the side in recent weeks, in front of a back four just to try and cut any service off to the Strikers. But every now and again they get caught square, that back four, and I think the fact that Tom Pondeljak is so good at making runs through the middle of the park, Jade North as well, I think they might split them open tonight.
Yes, Tom Pondeljak from midfield is the leading goal scorer for the Sharks this season, and that has been one of their big problems, converting their chances. That's why they lashed out on Ante Juric. An Australian record transfer fee of $110,000, but since arriving at the club, Milicic has been blighted by injury. He's a big loss for the Sharks tonight. Juric up over the halfway line, gets a good run off the ball from Packer, who's in behind this flat Brisbane defence, needs a good ball into the middle. The cover was there from Shane Stefanuto. All of the Brisbane players having their heads shaved during the week in aid of the Leukemia Foundation. So a worthy cause, but it does make life a bit difficult for commentators. And I guess some of the Brisbane players had a bit more to lose than others in the hair department as well. He's helping with the corner. Referee Simon Micallef just sorting out a bit of the pushing going on in the box. Chipped in by Halpin. Lindsay Wilson was the target with Ishida. Laybutt scored last week in Wollongong. And for the return, and even Laybutt there, I think he was in two minds whether to shoot across the ball. Back up, big period this for the Sharks. Brisbane do have a woeful record away from home against Olympic. They have never beaten Olympic in 11 previous visits to Sydney. Statistics don't always tell us a lot, but that is an amazing statistic in the circumstances. When you think that Brisbane won the league in 1997, they've had some good sides over the years, but Olympic really have had the wood on them at home. Fernando Rec has been in the news all week about his conversion to the Socceroo cause. Your view on that, Andy Harper?
No, I'm not a supporter of it. I think you may as well fly to Brazil and find 20 people who want to naturalise.
We've had a few success stories though in that department, haven't we, over the years, as the precinct goes to Brisbane.
I'm a supporter if
Milan Ivanovic, Žarko Ojikov, to name a couple.
Yeah, if they migrate for genuine reasons, non-football reasons, we're happy to have the whole potpourri of the world of football representing us, absolutely. But we're also beyond those days to a degree, I think.
Almost getting the return pass from Foster. Shot came from Grierson. Carboni puts it into the middle, an awkward bounce. In the end, Juric deals with it. And the long ball now leaves a one-on-one here between McCain and Macallister. Well, I'm going to disagree with both of you. I think it would be a great thing if Fernando Rec wore the green and gold. If he wants to make Australia his home, and I think he's good enough as well to play for the national team. There you go.
The national team that played Uruguay, or the national team that will compete in the Confederations Cup qualifiers?
Either. 8 minutes gone here at Toyota Park. No goals as yet in this top of the table clash between the two most exciting football teams in the country, although Perth Glory will obviously have a different opinion. It's been very tight so far. One of the specs between these two sides is Durante. Now with Wilson. Andrew Wilson taking that ball perilously close to the sideline there, but he's kept going, Wilson. In the end, though, he's run out of room. He really was pushing the envelope there, Lindsay Wilson, with that run. Back in the side after injury, on his way to PSV Eindhoven next season, a lucrative 5-year deal. A great start to any player's European career, the Dutch First Division. Fantastic grounding for players when they do go to Europe. Wilson looking to follow in the footsteps of another former Olympic player in Brett Emerton. Here's Foster. And Bolton had to stretch. It was the goalkeeper who made the initial error, and he accepts responsibility. So the first corner of the game will go the way of the Brisbane Strikers. Shot came from Paul Foster, who really is in fine touch. 7 goals in his last 7 games for Brisbane. McCain. 3-header there for Laybutt. And Carboni has slipped at the crucial moment. Away goes Wilson, but he doesn't have too many players close to him. Goes for the early cross, a deep cross. And it's too close to the goalkeeper from Lindsay Wilson. Well, any player that misses a game or two through injury takes a while to readjust for weight. He's got great engine for Lindsay Wilson, but I think he's just playing his way into a bit of match fitness here, isn't he?
Very much so. He's made 2 good runs down this right-hand side, and on each occasion he has almost walked back to the halfway line with his hands on his hips. And that's not like Lindsay Wilson at all. He jogs, well, it's almost 3/4 pace. You can't stop him early.
Foster. Well, it was a good idea there from Paul Foster. The run came from Alagic. And have such attacking strength, the Brisbane Strikers, in Paul Foster and Fernando Reck in particular. Packer. Here's Laybutt. Well, I guess those who expected end-to-end football right from the first whistle are a bit disappointed with this start. Both sides taking the more measured approach. Laybutt has moved forward. Inside is Halpin. Chance here for Sharks, and Stephen Laybutt, who really is all left foot, didn't take the shot with his right when he probably could have. And that's the reason the ball went towards the sideline instead of in the goal. But that's a couple of times now that Laybutt has pushed himself forward from the back line. His confidence high at the moment after that goal last weekend. Now have a free kick to the Sharks. A very promising position this for Troy Halpin. Jason Kearton just having 2 players in the wall. And plays it towards the back post. The run came from Laybutt, but cover was there for the Strikers in the form of Adam Webber. That's going to be a corner for the Sharks. Stephen Laybutt, the former Brisbane player, one of the more likely targets here for Olympic. And it comes from Ishida to the near post. Oh, Micallef got there. The goalkeeper was nowhere. And in the end, the half volley from Tom Pondeljak goes high above the crossbar. Look at that again. Laybutt appealing that he was pushed off the ball there. Tommy Pondeljak in his first season with the Sharks after his move across town from Sydney United, and Andy Harper, as we've said, he's the top goal scorer for Olympic from midfield. Very exciting customer when he's on form.
He's one of the best broken field players in the competition. He really can excite the crowd and cause damage to his opponents when the games do open up. And Olympic do open up their opponents with the way they move the ball and their speed across the field. Tommy's been a big beneficiary of that and a big contributor to their success as well.
Here's Durante. Durante nudging Carboni away from the ball, and the referee Simon Micallef saw a foul there. Not too many of the fans agree with him. Shoulder to shoulder here, Paul Wade.
Oh, not far off, but I think the ball's got to be within playing distance. And unfortunately, I think Simon Micallef thought that was a little bit too far away from Durante on that occasion.
Free kick's been taken quickly by Brisbane. The long ball looking for Grierson, and Bolton comes a long way off his line, finding over the back of his own player there. Here's Trajanovski. North with the header, Reck with the shot on the turn. And Stu McLaren in the back of Pondeljak there, so the free kick, a relieving free kick, goes to the Sharks. Andy Harper, a little bit surprised at the slow pace, if you like, at the start of this game.
Certainly from Olympic. I'm not surprised by Brisbane's approach. They'll get into the game and warm into the game. The times you've seen them, they finish stronger than most teams in the competition. So not so much of a surprise from them, but Olympic surprisingly cautious. There's a bit of a lack of intensity when they have the ball. They're closing Brisbane down well when they don't have the ball, but we expect so much more when Olympic do have the ball. Few surprises tonight. The size of the crowd's another one. I was expecting a bumper crowd.
What about that for a surprise as well?
A bit of a touch of the John Howard in those eyebrows just quietly.
Centre forward of Australian soccer, John Cosmina. Well, he's onside here, Macallister. Jason Kearton was alert to the danger.
I knew Cosy secretly admired my hairstyle for a while anyway.
I think he cried with every lock, John Cosmina. Clint Bolton has probably been the goalkeeper under the most pressure in this opening 15 minutes or so. Not that he's had too many serious saves to make, but Brisbane on the counter are a very threatening combination. Ishida goes down. Another rash challenge there from Webber. Adam Webber, one of the younger brigade at the Brisbane Strikers these days. Most of them, of course, graduates of the Queensland Academy of Sport. What a breeding ground that has been for the Strikers over the years. Of course, Gary Phillips, the Sharks coach, was the head coach of the QAS for a long time. They really are blessed, aren't they, Paul Wade, with that QAS system?
Well, I'm very fortunate enough to be able to travel to Brisbane at time to time and watch the boys before the main event, and the quality of the passing, the communication. You're right, they deserve a big pat on the back up there in Brisbane for finding these players first of all, and then nurturing them into quality players as individuals, as a team.
Stefanuto goes all the way back to his own goalkeeper. Sun now out here at Toyota Park. The clouds have dispersed. So far, this much-awaited contest has been a little bit quiet. Looking for a spark. Durante to the halfway line. Macallister gets in front and wins the header. Making the run off the ball, but the decision goes against Tommy Pondeljak there. Well, the last few times we have been to this ground, the referees have been in the eye of the storm. And already the Olympic fans having plenty to say to Simon Micallef with a few of his decisions. McCain driving it down the line. And Adam Webber beaten to the punch there by the sideline. Troy Phillips, the Olympic Sharks coach. He was, of course, a member of that championship winning squad in 1997, but rather controversially, not a member of the starting 11. That was a decision made by Frank Farina, of all people. But there doesn't seem to be any harm done. Andy Harper, they still play plenty of games of golf together, but it was a very contentious decision at the time.
It was, and perhaps more contentious was the fact that Gazza didn't even get on the field as a substitute, just sat on the bench, and even when it was obvious that Brisbane had grabbed the championship with their 2-goal lead, it was his last game in the National League, and a lot of people were expecting Gary to get just a little bit of a farewell in front of the 40,000. It didn't happen, so it did keep people's chins wagging for a while, but obviously the golf has settled all those problems. They just swing it away.
Well, he's not a sentimental man, Frank Farina, is he, Paul Wade?
It's black and white. There is no grey with Frank Farina. In fact, there's no grey with a lot of players, and I classify John Kosmina as one of those players. Having felt the wrath of a John Kosmina payout, I now realise that, well, it's all black and white.
But still Olympic unable to settle into their passing game. That is a credit to this Brisbane game plan. They are starting to frustrate their opponents. Brisbane happy to concede territory and possession when Olympic are in their last third, but things start to close up around the halfway line, and Olympic forced to play passes such as that. That's not their game at all.
I've been looking at Packer and the job he's doing. He seems to be standing next to Rec most of the time, but I think he's trying to get himself forward more often than not in the hope that Rec won't follow him. And he's, I don't know whether that's a tactic from the coaching staff here at the Olympic Sharks, but that certainly seems to be the way it's panning out at the moment.
Halpin goes over the top looking for Wilson. Stefanuto in 2 minds. Well, he's in 3. He's almost got his team into a bit of trouble there, Shane Stefanuto, but Olympic didn't apply enough pressure. McLaren. Still going, McLaren. Good run off the ball from Alagic. Wants to play it inside to Foster. The back pass cleared by Bolton. McLaren again doing a good job in that holding role in midfield. Really has given him a new lease of life. It does look as though Andy Packer has the man marking job on Fernando Rec. Not sure if Packer has been played in that role in the past. But most opposing teams identify Rec as the danger man for Brisbane. Packer on the ball now. And the fans getting a little bit anxious. They've got very high standards, haven't they?
They certainly have. They hate it when you go square, and good on them too. They want to be entertained.
We're 22 minutes into the game, and Olympic have not really fashioned a genuine opportunity. Halpin. Inside is Packer. He lines up his shot. It was on target as well from Andy Packer. Keaton with his body right behind the ball. A nudge there by Laybutt on Trajanovski. So that will be a Brisbane free kick. Well, the chances are that Olympic will have to score a couple of goals here to get over the top of Brisbane, because Brisbane have scored now in their last 25 consecutive games. So on that basis, the Strikers will get at least one. And Olympic would certainly be looking for all 3 points here. That win to Newcastle on Friday night. The chase is still on for that top 2 finish behind the Glory, who of course last night secured the minor premiership. John Carboni with the corner for Brisbane. Towards the edge of the box. Slightest of touches came from Webber, now with Alagic. Back into the middle. Laybutt with a strong header. Grierson. A decent cross there, but the movement in the middle was Not what he was looking for. A misunderstanding there between Grierson and Carboni. Has given the ball back to Olympic. Halpin playing it through the middle, looking for Pondeljak. Keaton comes outside the area. Andy Harper, though, still not the fluency we're used to seeing from the Olympic Sharks.
No, you think they've got about 6 more gears to go through at the moment. The speed of the ball movement, which is something they've treated us to all season, hasn't been there so far. The fluency and the connection of the passes, the completion of the passes just hasn't been there.
Halpin with the up and under. Ishida beaten to the punch by Webber. McLaren turns into trouble. Here's Pondeljak. Now Wilson. Wilson. It's a dangerous ball to the back post, but again Keaton looking in solid form between the posts tonight for Brisbane. Jason Keaton.
I thought we saw an example there of how much Lindsay Wilson is struggling for a bit of fitness. He didn't even make it to the byline, and normally he would do that. He stopped a good 5 yards short. He knew he couldn't do it. He didn't have the air in his lungs, and I thought the cross was a little bit ordinary. If you're going to knock balls in like that, then Keaton's going to gobble them up every time.
McLaren in plenty of room here. Stewie McLaren. Wreck got away from his marker. Play it in behind to Trajanovski. Well, the onus here is not on Brisbane to jump out of the gates. It is on the Olympic Sharks. In a lot of ways, they are at home. They are expected to set the tone of the game. Brisbane playing it smart in a lot of ways at the moment. Because Reno, I'm sure, will be very satisfied with this start. Durante into the feet of Micallef, who turns away from Stefanuto. It was the right idea from Wilson and Durante, but Durante's touch let him down. McCain happy to play the ball into the grandstand. Probably a fair indication of this performance from the Sharks so far, that their best moves have all involved defenders coming forward.
Apparently the word from the bench is that Lindsay Wilson is still suffering from a virus, and he does still have that ankle problem, so he definitely is not 100%.
That makes it something of a gamble from Gary Phillips to play Lindsay Wilson from the start. There he is, Lindsay Wilson. We talked about it before, Andy Harper, just the number of players that Sharks take into games who are not 100% fit. They probably do that more than any other team in the country. They by and large got away with it, but it is a risky policy over a long period of time. You look at people like Ante Juric and Troy Halpin, who hardly train during the week. You've got Lindsay Wilson with a virus, etc., etc.
And you need to carry those players if they're having an impact, and certainly to date in the season, Halpin and Juric have had huge impact on the success of the Sharks. I suppose you could isolate Troy Halpin the most of that, so you carry a player and it's not so much of a risk. But with the likes of Lindsay Wilson today, well, you take a risk putting him on, but if the product isn't there, you really have to start questioning if it's worthwhile risking him further.
Good ball in. Foster almost on the end defence. Now with Carboni. Still a couple of Brisbane players have stayed forward. Laybutt with the clearing header. Now McLaren. What about the shot? Guided against it. Here's Grierson. Trying to play the wall pass. It didn't come off. Juric brings the ball out for the Sharks. But that is a woeful ball. There's no other word to describe that. A woeful pass for Ante Juric. And Olympic certainly not on their game.
What a run from Adam Webber down that right-hand side. Ishida has had him tied up at the other end of the ground, but on that occasion, gee, if he can do that a little bit more often, then they're going to have a huge impact if they start knocking this ball around, the Strikers.
There's Weber again. Inside is Alagic. Weber continues his run. Aaron's taken his eye off the ball, but he retrieved the situation. Now Stefanuto, Brisbane going backwards. Here's Grierson. Inside is McLaren. Wilson on his hammer. McCain. Well, despite the fact that these two teams are locked on the same number of points, Brisbane going into this game very much as underdogs. Not too many people giving them a chance of a result here. Talking to various observers during the week, they all felt it was going to be an Olympic victory. Some are even tipping a rather comprehensive one, but it's not turning out that way at all. Of course, Brisbane are fond of reminding everyone that they were also written off before the start of the season. Trajanovski. Alagic. Well, almost found its way through to Trajanovski. Ishida tangles with Weber. He comes away with the ball. Laybutt continues to run up that left-hand side, but the pass was overhit from Hiroyuki Ishida. On their behalf, you have to say the better football at the moment is coming from the visiting team.
Well, quite surprising to me, not that they're playing better than Olympic particularly, but that last passage, which only broke down with Laybutt's header, with the pass that was intended for Trajanovski, I think that was on the end of 60 passes, it seemed like. They had the ball for ages, and Olympic couldn't get near them to get a touch. It's a really limp-wristed display from Olympic. They just got no spine in them at all at the moment. They're flopping around the place. It's a really uncharacteristic performance. They look tired. They look wretched. They're not playing as well as we did too.
Grierson. For Foster. Juric with the interception. Ishida has come inside. Lindsay Wilson now playing through the middle. Here's the targets. Another hasty attempted clearance from John McCain, but Brisbane have cleared their lines. And a rather late tackle there from Stephen Laybutt. And the referee, Simon Micallef, has said you're off. Well, we saw a similar decision last night. That is a very contentious decision, you have to say, from the referee. We'd like to see the replay, but there was no hesitation at all. And Stephen Laybutt sent from the field. We're half an hour into the game. Foster was the player on the receiving end. Paul Wade, was that a red card? A straight red?
No, not a straight red. I mean, there was a jump in there. There was a collision, but I don't think that he's actually taken him out at all. I think the jump has been there first, then the collision, and he's rolled over afterwards. I might be wrong. I'd love to have another look at it.
Now, Simon Micallef, without hesitation, pulled out the red card. I don't know if the referees are under some sort of instructions at the moment. It was certainly late, but in the context of where it was on the pitch, etc., Andy Harper, was that a red card?
No, I thought it was a yellow. However, if the game is going to clamp down on those sorts of tackles, it has to be consistent, and players have to know that if they make a tackle like that, they will get marched every week. The problem for a player is you go in hard for the ball. I'm sure Steve Laybutt mistimed that, and that's all. It's a yellow card, but not a straight red for mine.
And Gary Phillips now having to reassess things, because we talked about the poor form of the Sharks in the opening half an hour. Well, the job's only going to get harder now. Sharks down to 10 players. Laybutt off the park. Paul Foster will go off on a stretcher. There's no doubt that Foster's been hurt by that challenge. And you just wonder about the sensibilities of the fans. It's not his fault that he copped a bad tackle. The issue is whether it warranted a red card or not.
And might I just ask, where was this Medicab on Friday night when Srhoj Trajkovski broke his leg? And there wasn't anything of the like to look after a player with the most serious injury you can get.
A fair question. A very fair question indeed. And just incidentally, an update on young Srhoj Trajkovski. He's had a plate inserted in his leg, of course, compound fracture. That's the diagnosis, so we can only wish him the best in his recovery.
Well, the question's been asked. Let's expect an answer from someone.
Well, the crowd's still giving it to Paul Foster. Free kick comes in, cleared by North. Now the Sharks will have to get by in some adrenaline. Macallister. Here's Pondeljak. We couldn't get their numbers back, and in the end Pondeljak's shot was a rather tame one. But Brisbane almost caught asleep there. Well, it's a rather, as we said, Paul Wade, a rather tame opening to this game, but I think things will start to warm up now.
Very much so. I mean, it's an important lesson here for anybody who's going to... That's the reason for the boos. And they're probably quite within their rights, the amount of time he stayed down there. Maybe I'm a little bit out of order. I hate players lying down and then, what was it? 2 minutes he's got up and he's run on again. But just that pass from Macallister, he released it a little bit too late.
And there's a shot from Stewie McLaren, straight at the goalkeeper. So Paul Foster back out there for Brisbane. They have their full complement of 11 players.
I'm sorry, Wadey, but there is no way in the world that Paul Foster was playing a Mickey Mouse on that one. He's got a crook knee. We'll give it 5 minutes and see how he goes.
Ishida. Driving in was McCain. It's going to be a free kick to the Sharks. Well, as is so often the case, when one controversial decision is made, there's a few more to follow in quick succession. A tackle there from McCain, getting under the crowd's skin. He certainly dived in, John McCain. He goes to the Sharks. And starting to get a little bit agitated here, but significantly, since that sending off, Olympic have lifted a gear. Halpin with the free kick. Riding late with Wilson. We saw a similar situation on Friday night when Marconi lost a player at roughly the same period of the game, Paul Wade, and a lot of coaches around the league will tell you it's not always easy to play against 10 men. We saw that on Friday. Marconi, I think, covered themselves in glory. And as we've said, Olympic have suddenly got a taste for this game after that sending off.
Well, Ian Crook said after the game, I'd rather have had 11 players out there than against 10, because we seem to get worse with playing against 10 men. It's almost as if they relax 10% and all of a sudden they got real problems.
McCain on the ball for Brisbane. For Foster. Well, we've got no goals here at Toyota Park. Plenty of incident. We do have a few goals to report from the other game being played simultaneously. It's down at Summer Street. 2-1 to the Knights over Sydney United just before half-time. Here's Ishida on the ball in the meantime for the Sharks. Ishida trying to work the space for the shot, the cutback. And somehow Wilson couldn't turn that one in. Haven't the Sharks lifted a gear here? They are a different side now, and Brisbane are the team under pressure.
And Ishida, the man on screen now, he does those dipsy doodles. He's very sharp and quick on his feet. He's the player that Olympic need to get the ball to today. He's really up for it. He's had a chance to sniff it at a regular starting position in the Olympic team. Olympic need to get to the ball to the man on screen now, taking the corner.
No Laybutt for the Sharks as Macallister, his header crashes against the crossbar. They are a team possessed at the moment, the Sharks. And Dylan Macallister, as close as you'll get to a goal. Powerful header. Hits the goalkeeper, but not the frame of the goal. Clint Bolton coming to the sideline again. For some more treatment. And he will be replaced. Well, it's rather unsavoury. There's only one way to describe it. I don't really know why the fans are going on about it. And Paul Foster will get a yellow card as well for, I guess, what you would describe as some form of gamesmanship. Mackay is out for the Strikers. Foster goes to the sideline. And we can do without this sort of situation, Andy Harper.
I don't know what the yellow card was for. I mean, fair. He said thanks. There's a bit of tongue-in-cheek stuff. You need a bit of passion in the game. And Fozzie's picked up a yellow card for inciting crowd trouble. Do me a favour.
the situational countdown. And there he is, Simon Micallef. Well, I would imagine a few of the headlines tomorrow will be about his performance, sending off of Laybutt in particular. Well, strangely enough, in all this drama, the calmest person out there looks to be John Kosmina. He's very cool, calm and collected on the sideline. Here's Pondeljak. The overlap comes from North. Jade North in behind. Eventually Webber gets across. Now with Halpin. Inside is Pondeljak. Juric has moved forward. That's his first touches though from Ante Juric, but he may have got around Fernando Rec. He's done so. Dangerous ball into the middle. Now Rec retrieves the ball for the Strikers. Here's Grierson. Going long for Trajanovski. Well, as much as we say the Sharks have lifted a gear since that sending off, having Brisbane fallen into a hole as well, that must be a concern for John Kosmina. Been playing so well up until that incident, and now they really have taken their foot off the pedal. 5 minutes to go until half-time. No goals, but plenty of excitement now at Toyota Park. Back up. Halpin. Goes over the top looking for Pondeljak. Looked to have been nudged there, Tommy Pondeljak, but play on, says the referee. Grierson. With McCain, is virtually conceding half of the field when Brisbane are in possession of the ball, trying to conserve their energy. Here goes Pondeljak. Lovely ball over the top by Tommy Pondeljak. Macallister is wide on the left. Wilson getting forward in the middle. Here's Ishida, now Halpin. The momentum has slowed, and all of a sudden the bounce of the ball has an opportunity here for Brisbane. Rec rides the challenge of Juric. Fernando Rec still going. Left by Mackay. Allegich thinks about a shot, takes a second touch, and it almost squeezed in. Richie Allegich there, perhaps trying to be a bit too clever. He might have tried there first time, Richie Allegich. Not a player with a renowned nose for goal, but once this ball came across, one touch, bang. Instead there was two touches, and in the end the shot didn't have the power really to threaten the Olympic goal. Readjusted with Jade North going back into the centre of defence in place of Stephen Laybutt. Now just Dylan Macallister on his own up front. Pondeljak's made the error. Grierson's got in, across the face of goal. Juric puts it over the sideline on the side of the field. Sharks, I'm sure, Paul Wade, will just be trying to hang on really until half-time. They'll be desperate not to concede before the break.
Well, it's been probably one of their very ordinary halves this season, and you're right. I think they will love to go in, at least not a goal down, that's for sure. They'll try and get it right in the dressing rooms at half-time, reshape ask Lindsay Wilson if he's okay, and then take stock and get on with it.
Wilson plays it deep. Macallister trying to get there. Ball coming off McCain. The Sharks have a corner, so they might do even better. Score a goal themselves. Corner played short. Halpin with the shot. And the Strikers caught there with the quickly taken corner. quickly, Andy, after we've talked about the number of players that the Sharks may or may not be carrying in terms of their fitness, and that is going to be accentuated now that they're down to 10 men.
Yeah, it's a point very well made. Gary Phillips will have to reassess things at half-time, perhaps a couple of positional adjustments, keep his reserves up his sleeve, as it were, because they are carrying a couple of players. It's very obvious that they're down 3 or 4 gears on what we'd expect from them. They really need to spice things up at half-time. There's too much at stake, Michael. Second place, it's a big thing in the top 6 series. Olympic have had a great year in the way they've played football. You don't want to let it slip in the home game against one of your closest rivals, Brisbane.
Macallister will have to work his socks off now. Dylan Macallister, he's the only man up front for the Sharks. Ball inside though. Okay, with the interception. Rajanovski flicks it on, looking for Reck, who was just nudged away from it rather expertly there by Jade North. Here's Juric. Stefanino guiding the ball back to his goalkeeper as we approach the 45-minute mark. 2 minutes to be added on. There might have been a few more minutes than that with that injury to Paul Foster, but that's the verdict of the 4th official. 2 minutes of extra time to be played at the end of this first half. Here's Webber. Deep cross from Webber, and Bolton happy to allow that one to go through. And Webber, the right fullback for the Strikers. Strikers still awaiting the return of Dave Phillips from injury. He's a couple of weeks away. Still Wayne Heath out with injury as well. Daniel Dreger, 3 of their younger players absent at the moment. They don't carry a large squad, the Brisbane Strikers. So their depth is being tested at the moment, but they are coming through a difficult situation with flying colours. There's a real camaraderie about this Strikers side, and as we've already said, they have used a league low of just 19 players in all of their games this season. It's a pretty amazing record, just 19 players in their 19 games. So John Kuzmina has really been blessed in his selection policy. An established first 11, and he's been lucky enough to be able to persevere with it. Webber in space. Allegich peels off. Webber comes inside. Here's Reck. Allegich plays the early ball in, appeals for handball. The shot fell for Mackay. Well, rather quizzical look there from Richie Allegich. Did that come off the arm of the Olympic defender? Have another look at it. The early ball in from Allegich, and it certainly seemed to strike the arm of Ante Juric there, Paul Wade.
Yes, it certainly did. Halfway between the shoulder and the elbow. That's the cut-off point.
We've seen penalties given for that, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Well, there is the half-time whistle from Simon Micallef. So a big ask of the Olympic Sharks over the remaining 45 minutes. They're down to 10 men. The pivotal moment of the first half, the sending off of Stephen Laybutt, a straight red card for his challenge on Paul Foster. Foster eventually making way with a knee problem. So it looks promising in terms of the Brisbane Strikers, less so for the Sharks. Everything to play for. A top 2 place up for grabs here at Toyota Park. The halftime score, the Olympic Sharks 0, the Brisbane Strikers 0.
Nil all is the score, and both teams still plenty to play for as they try and catch Newcastle for that very, very, well, I suppose it's gold dust really, that second spot, isn't it?
It's a highly coveted position. The way our competition's configured along the top 6 playoff lines, the 2 bites of the cherry for the top 2 teams. It does mean a lot. There's a lot to play for, Paul, although you'd be mistaken for thinking there wasn't a lot on offer tonight. It's been quite a quiet first half from both teams, I think.
Well, I guess the important stat is the send-off, apart from the score, which is obvious. How do you think that will affect the Olympic Sharks? What can they do to change it around now, a man down?
Well, I think the immediate and obvious impact it had was to put a rocket up the remaining players. They were quite listless up until Steve Laybutt was removed from the field and at hugely controversial circumstances. Up until that point, Olympic really didn't look up for it. They looked sluggish and slow. They weren't moving the ball with the speed that we'd come used to watching them with. The other stats are pretty even, as we saw their shots on goal, fouls, etc. But Brisbane would be the more happy team at the moment, I would imagine.
Well, the number of shots were even. Andy Packer, his role in the middle of the park, it's a different role for him. He had a shot very early in that first half.
It's an unusual role for Packer, but they've all played under Gary Phillips. A lot of these players have played under Gary Phillips at the QAS, and under that system of development, a lot of the players were trained in different facets of the game. They all played in different areas, so it's not a huge surprise to see a QAS graduate under Gary Phillips playing in a new role. I'd rather see Ishida, the Japanese player, playing in a more central role where he can get more involved. He really looks like the type of player who can break things up for Olympic. They're having difficulty doing that. It's strange we're saying that about the Olympic Sharks, the way they've played this season, but that's the evidence of the first half to me.
Now, Ishida versus Webber on that far side. Ishida had been having the ascendancy for most of it, and then all of a sudden Webber exploded down with a perfect cross that could have been tucked away.
They really want to watch it. Adam Webb is a real goer. He's got a lot of heart, a big heart. Cavendish Road High School, State High School graduate from Brisbane. And it's McCain on this occasion, though, who bursts down the right. Here's a player we talked about in the pre-match. Gee, that was an attempt on goal that really could have easily been converted when you talk about the quality of Brisbane strikers. And Brisbane have had the better of the chances on goal. They have the numerical advantage as well when you talk in the player ranks, and they could easily be in front at this point.
Is it the slow start because of so much at stake that one mistake and that's it, you are even further behind Newcastle?
Well, it could well be, Paul, but Olympic have lived on the edge of that 9-4 season. You know, they haven't got the results because they haven't scored goals that a lot of people have expected. Consequently, the pressure has built on them from week to week. Now they've got a high-pressure situation as well, but it's not unusual for them the way this season has panned out. They just haven't risen to the occasion tonight. Now they've got a huge task. Not only are they playing the team that's level pegging with them on the competition, they're having to do it with a man down, and they're not playing well. And they're not up to it tonight so far. Gary Phillips will be working 10 to the dozen at half-time to turn things around.
Well, let's have a look at the reason why they are a man down. And Andy, you called it as maybe a yellow, but certainly not a straight red.
Oh, look, I couldn't see a red in this. It's definitely a mistimed tackle. It's come from the side. It's ended up looking worse, I think, than it was. That's not saying Paul Foster milked it at all. That's just the way the biomechanics work in that particular instance. I think from the player's viewpoint, you need to know every week if you make a tackle of any errors with any degree of mistake at all, you're going to get marched. You can't have it one week and then not the case for another 6. It's the consistency or lack of it is what kills players. I think Steve Laybutt and his team and the fans at Olympic were dealt a harsh blow there.
Aligic's shot in the 41st minute. Would you say that the Brisbane Strikers finished that half better than the Olympic Sharks?
I think they started it and finished it a lot better. Richie Aligic, I thought, did well. I disagree with Mike's call here. I thought he did well to cut back, open the goal up for himself a bit. It only ended up just missing. That was the post of its own merits. But, of course, Chris Trajanowski was hovering with intent round about the 6-yard area. He could easily have got something onto that. It would have been a goal for Brisbane. They've looked good, the Strikers.
Was it a handball from Ante Juric? It seemed to strike him on the arm. Let's have a look at that. What would you think?
Oh, and it's a difficult one. I wouldn't like to see a penalty given for that one. I don't think it really impeded the action of the Strikers so much. The deflection could have actually worked in their benefit. Could they have got a better shot on goal in the end?
Well, what will Gary Phillips do to change this around? He's got a man down with so much at stake. We'll be back right after this.
Rise to the occasion, and this is a very, very big occasion for the home side. Both of these clubs chasing a top 2 finish. That position currently occupied by Newcastle United, but of significance, Newcastle United do finish the regular season with a bye. Both of these clubs have a game in hand over Newcastle, so a win here to either of them would really set things up in the right way for them as they go into the finals. There he is, Stephen Laybutt, having showered and changed, taking his place in the grandstand. Simon Micallef, the subject of a lot of ire from these Olympic fans during that first half. Of course, the red card to Laybutt, the main talking point. And it's going to be Brisbane to restart the game. We saw Brisbane go into a little bit of a hole after the sending off. The Sharks charged up, tore at them. So So we are in, we would imagine, for a very interesting second half. And the Sharks retaining their same complement of players. So Lindsay Wilson, despite his problems with injury and perhaps the flu, remains out on the field for the time being. On the bench tonight for the Sharks, Elias Augerinos, the left side of the player, Wayne Srhoj, the midfield player, and Zenon Caravella, the young promising attacking midfield player as well. So there are options for Gary Phillips and, of course, more importantly, perhaps some fresh legs to call upon. There's a free kick to the Sharks. Halpin plays it out to the right-hand side. Wilson is there. Back up. Getting the ball in play, only just though. Dylan Macallister holding his run. And Dylan Macallister trying to burst through. Dylan Macallister! What a goal! What a time to score it! Absolute ecstasy around Toyota Park. The long ball over the top. He was just too quick and too strong, Dylan Macallister. And he finished with real aplomb there. The Sharks take the lead.
Well, I'm not quite sure whether it was square, but the two white shirts alongside him just couldn't muscle him out of the way. We talked about this for a long, long time now with the strikers and the back four that they have. There is no out-and-out sweeper. They do rely on each other to cover for themselves. And on this occasion, they certainly couldn't do it. And they, well, I guess against a lot of the run of play, as we've already said at the half-time break, and I'm sure the fans would agree, they're 1-0 ahead.
A real striker's goal from Dylan Macallister. And a real disappointment, I would imagine, for the Brisbane Strikers. We'll go down to the sideline, Andy Harper.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Well, joining me on the sidelines is Brisbane striker reserve player today, Lawrence Drake. Lawrence, welcome. The vibe at half-time or through the first half must have been pretty good. You really restricted the Olympic Sharks to not much in front of your own goal.
Oh yeah, I thought we did well the first half, you know. Olympic kept the pressure on us because even though 10 men, I thought they fought well in the first half.
So what about the readjustments with the extra man that you have, Laybutt removed from the field by the referee? What do you think? We'll just hold the action here.
Alagich goes for goal himself. An easy take for Clint Bolton.
What do you think Cozzy will do in a reorganisation sense to try and maximise your one-player advantage?
He's probably going to do more of an attacking role now, so we're going to probably push someone in the back forward, hopefully to, you know, put more pressure on Olympic, see if we can get a goal.
And of course, Lawrence, as the half unfolds, you'll be hoping for a little bit of action, maybe the game breaker for your team tonight.
Yeah, I'm hoping to come on. We'll see how we go, but you know, if I get on, I'll just do my best.
And just finally, Lawrence, Brisbane well and truly in the game, despite the fact that they've taken the goal and they're a goal down, but they do finish very well, your boys, very fit and very committed right to the end of the game.
Yeah, the boys, that's what we've done all year. You know, there's a lot of heart in the game. You know, we'll push to the last minute, so no doubt we'll come back.
Well, Lawrence, thanks for your time and all the best for you and your team in the second half.
Thanks, Harps.
Here's Weber on the ball for the Strikers. Different complexion over the game now, of course, with that goal from Dylan Macallister. He is full of running now after that goal, the striker for the Sharks. Macallister started the season so strongly, went into a bit of a rut for a while there, but that goal will do his confidence the world of good. That was goal number 4 of the season for Dylan Macallister. Strikers now. Well, they thought things were going to be a little bit simpler, but that's not how it's turned out. And now having to chase the game, the Strikers, despite having the one-man advantage. And I guess John Cosmina will be very disappointed with the manner in which that goal was conceded. It was pretty simple stuff. There was a static player in the sideline there for Olympic, just punted the ball over the top, and some pretty ordinary defending for Wayne.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's why goals are scored, isn't it? You get players making mistakes or not doing as the coach says. You concede a goal, you get on with the football. Seen it all before. I'm sure Andy Harper's scored goals because of it. And he's got a man down on the sideline, Andy.
Is that a throw? I certainly do. With me is the assistant coach for the Olympic Sharks, John Doyle. John, pretty listless the first half until the send-off. That set a firework amongst your team, and they all of a sudden looked like they were ready to play.
Yeah, it was a surprising start there. We were very listless, as you say, unfocused, a little bit confused, I felt. Yeah? We've got a few changing roles today, and that may have lent itself to you know, the lack of concentration.
Of course, you've got the early goal in the second half, which does aid your cause significantly, given the man down. Was there any talk at half-time about people doing extra work, lifting for each other?
Well, you know,
Here's Fernando Rec. What a save by Clint Bolton. An absolutely magnificent save there with his legs by the goalkeeper. You would have put your house on Fernando Rec there. But full credit to Bolton for keeping his side well and truly in this game.
John Doyle, you were saying.
yeah, well, the talk at half-time had to be around those points that with 10 men, obviously, you're playing with less time and possession, so you require more patience. Everyone knows that their job count has increased somewhat, and I think they're ready to do so.
But, of course, with a man down, even though you have the lead, it's not as though you can shut up shop and try and defend.
No, you can't shut up shop. This Brisbane side's playing very well. John's got them working very well. They're mobile. We'd have to do plenty, but as you know, whilst we have possession, we're still quite dangerous, even with 10 men. So it's a matter of just defending cleverly. For a young side, obviously that's not easy, but let's hope today they've got the patience to do the work very late in our own half. A lot of defence in our own half, obviously, is the answer.
All right, John Doyle. Well, we'll watch with immense interest to see how your team handles this challenge. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much.
So Olympic cling to their lead, and another long ball over the top. Looking for Micallef to create some uncertainty. Stefanuto this time holding his ground. Fernando Rec, I wonder if that miss is going through his mind. Trajanovski doesn't get the ball under control. Juric is back there for the Sharks. Here's Pondeljak. Ishida. Well, there were a few signs just around that incident involving Fernando Rec that the strikers were starting to find a few gaps. Here's Alagic again in behind. Tried to cut the ball back to Trajanovski. Mackay with a layoff, misdirected. Intercepted by Halpin. Here's Grierson. Pay goalkeepers for saves like that, don't you, Paul Wade? Clint Bolton, we know what an outstanding goalkeeper he is, and that was one of the better saves I've seen him make.
They only have to make one or two in a game. That's 90 minutes of concentration for one split second of brilliance. And he goes out there. I was speaking to Andy about it. I don't know whether you played with him before, Andy, but you say he goes out there 1 hour before kickoff and just warms up and loosens up and makes sure that his mind's on the job.
He certainly does. He's a brooding type, Clint, when the game approaches, and he does like to spend that time before the game by himself. He's getting himself prepared mentally, focusing in, zoning in.
Listens to a bit of sort of heavy metal, doesn't it?
On occasion, he's pretty partial to some thrashing music.
Yeah. Here's Carboni. To bring the ball under control, ran into a brick wall. But continue, Andy.
But it's all worth it when you see saves like that. That was a save from the keeper in the zone. Fernando Rec was unbackable odds from that range and with his quality. And he did everything pretty right, but Bolton was just magnificent in that particular occasion.
Bolton, the skipper of the Olympic Sharks this season, relishing that particular responsibility. The experience behind him now, originally from Bundaberg in Queensland. And a fairly lengthy National League career. He's only in his mid-20s. Been caught out there though, Bolton, as we speak, and McLaren arriving late. And a good look at the goal. He's very, very disappointed with himself here, the Brisbane skipper. Missed the ball completely.
Well, one of the reshuffles is that Jade North has come from a midfield role into that back three. And Durante and North now are picking up. Fernando Rec has moved from a midfield role just in behind the two strikers, up to an out-and-out striker. Here he is now, and he's done that before, but I just wonder how much confusion is going to be reigning in that Olympic Shark defence with the fact that North is the new man in there.
Pondeljak. Here's Wilson. Pondeljak gets it back. A good recovery there from Stefanuto. Now it's Grierson. And the line is Rek. Brazilian pretty well held so far by the Sharks, but he's starting to come more and more into this game. Alagic. Well, he's been the player with the best chances for Brisbane, by and large, Richie Alagic. He hasn't made the most of them. As we've already said, not a renowned goal scorer. He's only scored 4 times in 150 NSL appearances, so it's not his forte, but he is getting into good positions, and that is a frustration for the strikers. Alagic hasn't been able to convert a couple of these half chances. Meanwhile, down at Summer Street, no change to that scoreline we brought you. The half-time score, still the Knights 2, Sydney United 1. Goal scorers for the Melbourne Knights. Ivo de Jesus. And I think it was Andrew Marth, the goal scorer for Sydney United, Cummins Manapi. Here's Mackay. Grierson. There's Carboni on the overlap. And John Carboni trying to win the corner. Juric feels he cleared the ball across the line, but the flag was up, so that will be a corner kick to Brisbane. And it comes from Carboni, looking towards the edge of the 6-yard box. McLaren did get some contact. Straight back out to John Carboni. Gets it in once again. Too close to the goalkeeper on this occasion.
Yeah, well, Brisbane are best for mine when they keep the ball 2 feet, the short passes, 5, 10, 15-yard passes, and moving off the ball around those central areas, around the centre of the penalty area and the approach play. And it even suits them more now that they've got an extra player. They can really be patient. They can probe and prize open the Olympic defence. They have to be patient, though, and not just welly the ball into the box and play into the hands of the Olympic Sharks.
There's still plenty of time remaining for both of these two teams. Pondeljak. Good skills there from Tommy Pondeljak. At the end, he just ran out of room. A few signs now that both coaches are preparing to make a change. The substitutes starting to warm up behind either goal. I would imagine that Phillips will be the first coach to resort to his bench in the second half. As we said, he's carrying several players who aren't exactly 100% fit. Alagic turning into trouble in the form of Ishida. To do it on his own, he's quick enough. Now Packer. And offside there against Hiroyuki Ishida. Just over half an hour remaining. And a goal from Dylan Macallister just a minute or so after half-time has given the Sharks the lead. Halpin gets away from Mackay. Square is Durante. Wilson. Inside, Lindsay Wilson looking for Andrew Durante, who continued his run through the middle. Now Rek, though, can't get away from Packer. And that is well dealt with in the end by Jade North. Well, he's made a liar of me. It's going to be John Cosmina who makes the first change, and Lawrence Drake, who we did speak to just after half-time, preparing to come on. Looks like the number 2 is in the air, so Richie Allegich, the player set to make way. Halpin and Wilson is in behind. Ishida doing his best to get forward in the middle, still with Lindsay Wilson. Going cleared only as far as Halpin. Halpin gets past Mackay, still going is Troy Halpin. Sliding in was John McCain. They made an awful mess of it, the strikers. Carboni. Real persistence here from Pondeljak, and dead unlucky in the end. That was a good contest between a couple of the Brisbane players and a couple of those from the Olympic Sharks. In the end, the deflection didn't work for Tommy Pondeljak, but can't fault the commitment level there of all the players involved. And there goes Richie Allegich to the bench. On comes Lawrence Drake. We've talked about him a few times, Paul Wade, as being a potential game breaker. And it's going to be an interesting tussle now with Ishida and Drake. Two players are like-minded players, if you like.
Yeah, look, Allegich was on this right-hand side. I'm not quite sure whether Allegich really could have forced the issue as much as he did. He was almost a spare man, and Drake, well, if he gets hungry for the ball, if he looks for it all the time, if he doesn't hide behind Jade North, then he'll be very effective indeed playing alongside Rec.
Grierson. Webber. Inside is McCain. Drake wins the ball in the air. Durante full of commitment. Awkward bounce for Halpin, who's trying to use his body, but Ishida taken out by Drake. And let's see what the verdict of the referee here is. It's only the yellow. Dylan Macallister leading the protest from the Olympic Sharks. Andy Harper.
Well, the Olympic Sharks, that was frustration. They're looking for the player ledger to be evened up. There was no way that was a red card at all. Barely a yellow for mine. Just a little bit late, but a yellow, fair enough. And Macallister, well, his yellow card was a silly one, and if that comes back to haunt him, well, he'll be his own. It'll be his own fault. Completely unnecessary. Gave Simon Micallef, the referee, a gobful that you wouldn't believe. Completely uncalled for.
Paul Wade.
Oh, don't start me. I'll tell you what. The only thing that saved Lawrence, or the tackler there, was the fact that the player who he tackled got up straight away. If he'd have stayed down, I'm not quite sure. I'm not going to second-guess Simon Micallef, but tell me the difference. I'd love to see them both on a replay, and we probably will on Soccer Central. The difference between the two tackles, one gets a yellow, one gets a red. Ishida.
Time brings him to the ground, and that will be another yellow. I don't think anyone can suggest a red there, but the temperature rising at Toyota Park.
So, Wade, you're suggesting that Paul Foster is the culprit in Steve Laybutt sending off? Paul Foster, who's sitting next to me here with ice on his torn medial ligament.
No, I'm suggesting that the only reason that one of them stayed down, or, well, the only reason that he got a red was because he stayed down and rolled round. And I mean, the player who went down then got up straight away. I'm not quite sure whether the player went down or the player who was on the floor getting up might have made an influence, but I'll tell you what.
Halpin has the free kick, whips it in. Dangerous ball, just needed a touch. Lindsay Wilson was the player arriving at the back post. The Olympic Sharks now feeding on their own adrenaline.
Well, can you tell me, Andy, the difference between the two tackles?
Certainly, I thought Laybutt's was a yellow and Lawrence Drake's was a free kick. No card at all. That's what I reckon.
Even though both of them missed the ball and both of their opponents were brought down?
Yep.
On similar angles?
Yeah. How many times do you want me to answer the question, lady?
Well, no, I just can't believe with the how close you are to the action that you are saying such a thing. I really can't.
Here's Macallister, the goal scorer. Dylan Macallister.
There we go. We will live in disbelief at each other's viewpoints.
Absolutely.
As they say, it's a game of opinions.
Correct.
It's a game of opinions. That's the beauty of it. Here's Trajanovski. Now with Grierson, trying to feed Rec, who just gets in front of his marker. And a rather theatrical fall to the ground there from Chris Trajanovski. I don't think even Trajanovski really believes that was a penalty. I'll look at it again, though. Durante certainly got the ball, or got enough of it. Just on the subject of Chris Trajanovski, Andy Harper, we're seeing him on screen at the moment. He's been out of favour for a few weeks, and by all accounts trained the house down to get a starting berth here tonight, but really hasn't made the most of it. He's been a bit of a peripheral figure so far.
It's difficult for a player like Traja, who is ostensibly a striker, and he started the season well. I think he was a very important part of that attacking trio, Foster, Rec and Trajanovski. Form dropped a little bit, and Cozzy then rearranged teams to try and get Traja back into the swing of things, and when you play out of position, or a coach plays you out of position with the intent of trying to get you more involved in the game, sometimes it can have a derogatory impact, and I think that might be the case with Traja. He is still struggling to find some consistent form, but some of his touches and inclusions tonight have been pretty encouraging. He and his teammates, though, they're chasing this game. They really need to start exerting some pressure on this Olympic.
But he's got to do a lot more in summary, hasn't he? Surely, in this situation.
What do you want from him?
Maybe to get in front of his man a bit more often rather than wait for the mistake.
Well, I think he's providing a good target. To answer your question.
Yep.
But I think on mass, the 11 players or the 10 players in white plus the goalkeeper have to start pressing. And then someone like Trajanovski playing up front might get some more space to play, and if his teammates behind him can start forcing the issue.
Here's McLaren on the ball. Trajanovski coming short. Grierson boxed in on that far side.
By the way, have I said something to offend both of you blokes? Have I got a big target on my back or what?
Well, we've all got an opinion, Andy. You've already accepted that, whether it be right or wrong.
Webber's got away from Ishida. Needs to make the most of the space here, Adam Webber. And that is a free header on target from the aforementioned Trajanovski. Bolton, the goalkeeper, in the right place at the right time. Good delivery there from Webber. Plenty of power in the header there from Trajanovski, but Clint Bolton had positioned himself perfectly.
That was a good chance for Trajanovski, and I feel he should have headed back across the goal for the far post on that occasion. That was the one that Bolton was going to save, the near post header. Got a brilliant piece on it, a good action, good cross, good header, just misdirected.
Stefanuto. Aaron's taking his eye off the ball, giving away possession. Here's the Sharks on the counter. Packer. Packer heading towards the corner at full speed. Ishida. Macallister wants it played deep. Ishida goes backwards instead. And the ball for Halpin crosses the sideline. And it's going to be an early mark for the Japanese import, Hiroyuki Ishida. Very much becoming a crowd favourite among the Sharks fans. He goes up with 20 minutes remaining. On comes the veteran Elias Augerinos. Two different types of players. Augerinos there perhaps to steady the ship. Stefanuto. Matt Mackay wants some room for himself. Still going is Mackay. Shot blocked by Durante. Grierson. McLaren spreads it wide. Webber. Inside of him is Drake. Not making much of a run though, Lawrence Drake. Here he is on the ball now. Had to play the 1-2 with Rec. It's fallen for Pondeljak instead. Well, he's heading the wrong way there, Tommy Pondeljak. He had two players pushing forward on that far side of the field, but he came towards this grandstand instead. Here's McLaren. 20 minutes remaining. The Sharks 1, leading the Strikers 0. The Sharks, we shouldn't forget, have been playing with 10 men since the 30th minute mark of this game. Still going is John McCain. His shot, and at full stretch, Bolton makes the save. Well, he's on his game tonight, Clint Bolton. He is primed to produce the heroics that the Sharks require. John McCain pushing forward from the back line, forces the save from the goalkeeper, and the Strikers have to settle for the corner. Carbone into the near post, in the corner. Augerinos there with the clearance. Carbone, played by North. And Drake and Carbone both left that ball for each other. Augerinos has made the mistake. Drake gets to the byline. Not enough on the cross, though. Augerinos making another mistake, the substitute. Free kick to the Sharks. Sometimes it takes a few touches to get into the game. That's certainly the case at the moment for Augerinos. And now it's going to be another change from Olympic, and Troy Halpin, who has been carrying the back problem all season, goes to the sideline. On comes another of the former Brisbane players in this Olympic Sharks squad these days, Wayne Srhoj.
Troy Halpin.
Sorry, Mike, go on. Well, I know the Olympic Sharks are leading 1-0, and I know they've got to get bodies behind the ball because the pressure is now starting to mount, but just to give them a little bit of relief, I think Dylan Macallister should just push on as far forward as he can, and even if it means the Olympic Sharks humping one forward, it'll just give them a little bit of relief at the back, a little bit of a breather so that they can go again. They are very organised at the moment, the Olympic Sharks. Ante Juric can testify to that, but they can't keep defending on the edge of their 18-yard box for the next 20 minutes or so. It's just too long, and Macallister should help them out.
Troy with the free kick for the Sharks. For Augerinos. Well, there's still time enough for Brisbane, Andy Harper, but John Kosmina, I feel, will be pretty disappointed with the last 10 minutes or so from his side.
No, I think you're 100% right, Mike. Plenty of time for the Strikers. We've seen them just gain in strength as games have gone on through this season. They've still got heaps of time, when you look at the way they play the game, to work an opening for themselves. They've had 2 or 3 good opportunities. Let's not forget that. So they need to continue in that vein, but without the ball, I would be making sure that they're completely harassing the Olympic boys in blue, making sure they don't get any respite whatsoever. There's far too much at stake. We've talked about that ad nauseum tonight, but they really need to lift the gears now, Brisbane, and force the issue.
Here's Reck on the edge of the box. Matt Mackay leaves it for McLaren. Here's Webber driving it deep. Trajanovski shot on the turn. Across the face of goal. That has taken a deflection. Further to the referee, so it will be a corner. Just over 15 minutes remaining. And John Kosmina also preparing to make a change, but he'll just wait until the corner's been taken. Carbone. Clears the ball, but only as far as Carboni, who gets a second bite of the cherry. That is the right type of cross in the circumstances from John Carboni. Here's Drake. Still going is Lawrence Drake. Drake has a shot straight into his opponent. And that's going to be another corner. Lawrence Drake did ever so well there to create the opening for the shot. Disappointed, even angry with himself. Once again, Carboni down the throat of Clint Bolton. And a chance for some relief now for the Sharks. McCain. Good use of the body here from Trajanowski. McLaren spreads it wide. Carboni, it's an early ball in. Drake brings it down. Played inside to Mackay. Now that change may be made by Brisbane. I saw a glimpse of the number 7 there at one stage. Perhaps John Cosmina now ruminating. Who will make way. Number 7, of course, belongs to Fernando Rec. Cosmina just keeping his powder dry a little bit longer. Here's Rec on the ball. Here's Webber. Well, the entire Olympic side at the moment inside their defensive third. Brisbane finding it very hard to break them down. Space now for Carboni, but another disappointing delivery. Grierson. Grierson looking for Rec. He leaves it. North with the clearance. Micallef the only player forward for the Sharks. Augerinos down the line looking for Pondeljak. Cut out though by McCain. Well, apart from the goal that Brisbane have conceded, you talked about him before the game, Andy Harper. John McCain has looked very composed for Brisbane at the back.
I was just thinking that. Look, he's had a great game, made one mistake, unfortunately, and that's the mistake that separates the teams. But defenders can't afford to make mistakes, can they? That's the name of their game. They've got the easy job defending. Creating goals is the difficult bit. Well, John McCain has had an accomplished performance apart from the mix-up with he and Stefanito for the goal.
Here's Augerinos. Still with Augerinos. Eventually Brisbane clear their lines. Troy. North. Strong block tackle there. And Adam Webber. Trajanowski. Down the line is Mackay. Beaten to the punch there by Durante. It was just a question of two players going for the same ball. One perhaps a little bit more committed than the other. And now Brisbane will make that change, and it looks as though John Cosmina has changed his mind, because it's John Carboni who will make way instead of Fernando Rec. On comes the super sub of the strikers these days, Michael Baird. An out-and-out striker. Michael Baird, I should say, straight into the mix-up for Brisbane. Brisbane really with the onus on them now. The Sharks have just retreated virtually into their own half, trying to protect the lead. And Brisbane at the moment not smart enough to break down their opponents. John Cosmina was intending to make that change with Fernando Rec going off. I think he's made the right decision for Wade and changing his mind, because in these circumstances, 10 minutes ago, Rec is the player who can make things happen.
Well, we talked about Bolton and a flash of brilliance. He can do the same.
Almost an own goal. It came off Srhoj, I think. Macallister with the header. Well, towards the goal. Macallister scored at one end. He's now doing the dirty work at the other. Rec. Goes from Augerinos, the ball into the middle. And late at Michael Baird. It's another chance here, Baird, the number 17, but Durante in the front of his man. And that's a free kick to the Sharks. Here the Olympic players saying, well, where's the card, referee? Clint Bolton in no particular hurry to take this free kick. Kick to Olympic. This time the challenge came from Michael Baird. Andy Harper. The clock keeps ticking away, and no real signs that Brisbane have it sussed.
No signs of life at all, really. They're not going through the motions. That's too harsh a thing to say, but it's not happening for them at all. And you said they're not being smart enough around the Olympics penalty area. Well, I agree with that. There's no excuse, really. They have players who are heaps smart enough to do the job.
One of them, of course, is Fernando Rec, but that probably sums up where it's all going wrong for the Strikers. Bolton deciding it's time for a bit of forcing back.
And John Cosmina, in leaving Matty Mackay out, obviously sensed that whilst he's had a tremendous debut season in the National Soccer League, he perhaps needed a little bit of time out to reassess things and regain some energy and emotion, because it's difficult making the transition as a kid. But since he's been on the field, I think you've only called his name twice, and look, he's a player of immense talent, got a big future, but he's playing in the big league now. He needs to roll up his sleeves and give his team some options as well.
Just on 7 minutes remaining. The Sharks still clinging to the one-goal lead provided by Dylan Macallister. Drake goes inside. Grierson. Mackay lays it off. Mackay again. Baird. Looking for Stefanuto, who's now gone out into that left full-back position. McLaren in a hurry to get things going. And McCain just playing it long. That is going to get no change at all for Brisbane. Just percentage ball from John McCain. Not necessarily his fault, though, is it, Paul Wade? It's not always the defender's fault when you see balls played forward like that. They need movement off the ball. They need good runs, and they're not getting it.
Spot on. There is no movement. There's no proactive runs from the players. Mind you, there's a hell of a lot of blue shirts standing in the way of them as well. And there's not much of a gap between those blue shirts and Clint Bolton, so it's very difficult to lift one over the top.
Well, Pondeljak has forced a mistake, and all of a sudden, Pondeljak, it's 1 against 2. Tommy Pondeljak, a specialist in these sort of situations. And he has slowed it down in the interest of just keeping possession. If Olympic had their 11 players, you would have bet Tommy Pondeljak would have just gone straight for goal there. Ante Juric taken out of play. It goes to ground. It's going to be a free kick. Grierson. He didn't get his opponent at all, but the replay tells perhaps a different story. Strikers on the verge now of going home empty-handed. Tucker has the free kick. Augerinos, Micallef, Wilson inside the penalty area for the Olympic Sharks. Reck brings the ball under control. Baird running off him. Janowski going to the charge box there. It was a good ball in from Michael Baird, but the cover was there from Jade North for the Sharks. And really, Brisbane now have to take all the risks. Time has become their enemy. Phillips sweating on this result. What they call the classic six-pointer here at Toyota Park. So much riding on this result in terms of that top two finish. McCain. Out to Webber. Interception came from Augerinos. Wilson. Wilson prepared to take on McLaren. Aaron goes into the ball. Says he used his shoulder. He's absolutely furious, Stewie McLaren. And a free kick in that area of the park at this stage is like gold dust for the Olympic Sharks.
Yeah, it's interesting. How far was the ball away? Can't really tell. Well, he got a touch, didn't he? It was shoulder to shoulder, maybe a bit of an elbow in there. But it was certainly aggressive towards the man as opposed to the ball. Maybe that's what Simon Micallef made up his mind.
Well, no Troy Halpin out there at the moment for the Sharks, so they'll have to settle for the likes of Tommy Pondeljak from the dead ball. Kearton positioned at his near post. Tries to break through the wall. Here's Srhoj. He'll head towards the corner flag. Wayne Srhoj. The little corner. And they'll get a free kick. It's going to be a throw to Brisbane. And Webber there, using his arms on his opponent. So they're playing it smart, aren't they, Andy Harper, the Olympic Sharks?
Well, they're running the clock down. They're doing everything that's expected of them. I thought on those two breakaways, Wilson and Pondeljak both had the pace to really exploit the one-on-one situation. They didn't utilise it.
Well, some serious shirt tugging going on there between McLaren and Wilson. Referee lets it go. The Sharks now just a couple of minutes away on a result which looked to be beyond them, perhaps. And Laybutt was sent off the field after half an hour. McCain. And again, here's Stefanuto. And in fact, it's going to be a free kick to the Sharks. Offside is the decision.
Oh, Michael, what a strange game football is. There is no way in the world you could say anything except the send-off of Stephen Laybutt has helped the Olympic Sharks. And that's not talking about Laybutt's contribution. That's talking about the listlessness of their performance until they went a man down. That was the spark that got them back into the game and made them start playing some football. And it was the turning point in the game. Brisbane then took their foot off the accelerator and Olympic found some energy, got the goal soon after half-time and have defended stoutly since. But isn't it an ironic game football?
Well, we all thought this was going to be a goal feast here at Toyota Park, the two most entertaining teams in the country. And anything but a real arm wrestle between the Strikers and the Sharks. And now Brisbane staring down the barrel of a defeat, which could well strike a mortal blow for them in terms of finishing in the top two. We're about to go into stoppage time. 3 minutes of extra time to be played. Mackay. And Matty Mackay. Bolton has spilled it. I was just about to say, Andy Harper, I think this is the time when players have to try their luck from a bit of distance now. There's no room in front of these midfield players in Brisbane. They've got to back themselves like Mackay did here.
Yeah, they did, and Bolton's been unbeatable tonight. Obviously, the scoreboard suggests that, but his general form has been impeccable tonight. It probably would have taken something from distance. Matty Mackay asked him a difficult question, and he was up to it. Brisbane haven't been tonight, though. They haven't had the answers.
Jason Pearson coming outside his penalty area. He'll bomb it forward. Someone to get ahead to the ball. It's Juric for the Sharks, though. Augerinos with a layoff. Mackay. And that's going to be a free kick to Brisbane. The foul on Trajanowski, the culprit adjudged to be Andrew Durante. Is this the opportunity that Brisbane have been waiting for? As you can see there, the referee got it right because Durante was dragging back his opponents. Fernando Rec, the stage is set. The Brazilian dead ball specialist has a good look at the goal. He has a word to Peter Grierson. He says, who's going to take this one? 2 minutes into stoppage time. Grierson leaves it for Rec, and Rec goes straight at the goalkeeper. And that possibly is going to be the ball game. Wilson now, the Sharks looking for the second goal, which will clinch things. Troy almost on the end of it. Wilson again. Cuts it back, Troy. And Wayne Srhoj got it all mixed up, didn't he? Well, the Sharks have had to do it the hard way tonight, in particular without Stephen Laybutt. Next to him, Ante Juric out through injury. Biting their fingernails down to the quick, these Sharks fans. Look at the watch there from Simon Micallef. This has got to be the last throw of the dice for Brisbane. It's broken down. And now Wilson at the other end. Has he got the energy? Lindsay Wilson, Micallef wants to play it inside. Still with Lindsay Wilson. And there is the final whistle. They've done it the hard way, the Olympic Sharks. They've got the 3 points, and they've given themselves a real chance of finishing in the top 2. The Sharks without Stephen Laybutt, who was sent off in the 30th minute, but they were good enough to hang on. They rose to the occasion, and in the end, a goal from Dylan Macallister, a minute or so after half-time, provides the difference in this top-of-the-table contest. Perhaps a mortal blow for the Strikers in their quest for a double chance in the finals. Smiles around Toyota Park. The full-time score, the Olympic Sharks 1, the Brisbane Strikers 0. So a performance full of character there from Olympic. They have had their character questioned on occasions this season, but not tonight. They overcame the disadvantage of losing a man so early in the game, and they got their rewards. For Brisbane, a lesson learned perhaps. They really didn't have the right approach against a massed Olympic defence, and in the end it will be a crushing disappointment, this result for Brisbane. The Sharks now move to within 1 point of second place Newcastle United. They do have the game in hand, the Olympic Sharks, so things looking good for the home team. A rather dispirited and dejected Brisbane Stride make their way off the field. We'll now go down to Paul Wade.
Thanks very much, Mike. Dylan Macallister Well, I just don't know what to say. You scored a goal, the crowd are going off their heads, such an important game. I guess, well, it was 1-on-2. How did you feel?
I don't know, the ball's come across and my first touch was amazing and the ball just bounced perfect for me. And I've been training hard all week and all credit to the boys. I mean, I'm the one who put it away, but it was the team game tonight and we came through. 10 men, what can I say? We're going to go all the way, I hope so.
Dylan, thanks very much for your time. Well done. Well, Chris Trajanovski, disappointing really with so much at stake.
Yeah, it was. We had a lot of possession, and you know, I think Clint made a couple of good saves and all that. And you know, they did well with 10 men, and they got the result at the end of the day.
How difficult did you find it up front? So many blue shirts in front of you towards the end.
Yeah, there was. They just defended, and you know, like it's hard enough playing with 5 at the back, but when they had like most of the boys behind, it was pretty tough out there.
Chris, thanks very much for your time. Chris Trajanovski did a sterling job up front, and well, Andy Harper. Disappointing from both sides, really, when you consider how much was at stake and the fact that they're chasing Newcastle now.
I think so, Paul, and the fact that you know, both teams have played so well this season. It really didn't happen tonight. The game never reached the heights that we all expected. The send-off had something to do with that, but as I said in the call, I think that actually helped Olympic, really. The way they started the game, had the energy they didn't have, but they suddenly found when they went a man down. Well, really, but the game, the crowd didn't turn up like we expected. The game didn't rise to our expectations, but 3 points for Olympic, it's like gold at this point of the season.
Let's have a look at the goal. You'd admire a goal like this, holding off 2 players, wouldn't you, Andy?
He did well, but it was poor defending. A long ball in under no pressure. The striker got between the 2 defenders. There was too much space in between them. John McCain had a good season, had a good game apart from that, but it was the turning point in the game. It was what separated both teams. It's what's given Olympic the 3 points.
Let's have a look at the results in round 22 of the National Soccer League. Newcastle 3, Marconi 1. Northern Spirit get up over the Kings. Adelaide City go down to South Melbourne. Trimboli scoring 2. Parramatta go down to Perth Glory. They win the minor premiership. The Olympic Sharks 1-0 over Brisbane. The Melbourne Knights got up over Sydney United at home. Well, that's a miracle. 2-1. And Wollongong had the bye. Plenty of